Hey, good morning, all. Good morning. It's an honor to take this time to come talk to you about feeding the thought. And my thought to today is, how do you establish yourself, or reestablish yourself in this new normacy that we're in, this new way of interacting with each other, a new way of doing business? How do you reestablish yourself or establish yourself in the business field or in your job or in your entrepreneur movement? How do you go about reintroducing yourself or introducing yourself to someone that we still operating under the mask or that social distance? How do you reintroduce yourself to someone when we're practicing social distance, but you realize that you had this in existence before the pandemic? People will be standoffish from you just because, whatever that reason is, intimidations, feel just don't like you, or I don't know, they just already created a bounder or some type of border between you and them, and the pandemic just allowed them to stretch it out even past that. I mean, the pandemic has taught us that we can still get along, but we have to have a certain distance in between us. And sometimes in some places, we have found that this pandemic has been more of an insult than a help, because it made you feel like you were isolated, made you feel like you were not worthy to be in a space. Because some people were are huggers or greeters. They love to be in your presence. They feel the closer that they are to you, the better they can share information to you. And for you all that didn't like that close proximity of each other, the pandemic worked in your favor. But then again, did it? Because later on, you found out that you longed for that closeness that you used to get. Even though you didn't like everyone in your space, you ended up missing it. I guess you missed the fact that people were trying to just get in that area and try to show you some type of comfort that you were missed or appreciate who you are. So the only way they could do was, as other people say, violate my space, cut in that 6 feet. Some cases it was good that we did create that distance. But after a period of time, you kind of welcome the fact that somebody would call or somebody would come and try to make an attempt to get to know you a little better, or try to remind you or celebrate their happiness. You remember, like at your job, sometimes we have celebrations of birthdays or weddings or whatever, and then you were restricted to see these things on Zoom, and people would try to come up with creative ways to try to make you have that office-like experience on a computer. But we did what we had to do. But now that we're moving back into this new normalcy, what are we doing to make difference? Are we going to continue having this social distance even though the pandemic could be gone? Are you going to be still looking for some type of mask to put over your mask, or one that is not so prevalently seen but one that still exists? Are you going to go out your way to make sure that people still practice this distance, 6 feet or more? I remember people used to say, talk to the hand, give me space, you're too close. We used to stress that. And I'm not saying everybody should be able to come that and that close. If you're not comfortable with it, keep it. But for those that are generally ones that like to hug and embrace and touch and feel, you're going to have to change some of that, maybe. Or maybe you have other people around you that still enjoy that embracement. I don't know what it's going to be like after this pandemic has been back in this little closet. Everybody been treated or vaccinated, or everybody's come to a place that this is the new normalcy. I don't know if new normalcy means that this is going to be on the outside seen, or maybe we're going to have one that we create like this. I mean, we have all seen some type of mask being worn, as you've seen visual, or we have seen it as a manifest. I mean, a lot of people sit back and they look at the difference in color, different in creeds or practice, and they have put up their own set of boundaries to keep people at a distance. Then you have other people who try to get others to remove the mask, remove the distance, because they believe all of us should get along. And I do practice that belief that we all should get along, no matter what your color of skin or what you may think. We all need each other to be successful in life, I think. We should live in a place of peace. But at the same time, I think everybody should honor the fact that some people are not operating the way that you do. Some people love to be to themselves and not so close. And you have to respect that. So you all that are touchy feeling, Take some things that you learned from this pandemic and try to make some changes. Maybe everybody's not going to welcome the fact that you're in their space. Then you have some that long for that. You have to be the judge of that now. And I think the pandemic gave you a chance to reintroduce yourself in a new way. I mean, still expect people to be who they are. If you're a loving person, continue to be that. Just understand that in the past, maybe people tolerated you in their space. Now, since the pandemic, they have put boundaries up and they wanted you to respect those. And what better way to do now is to see as we're moving close to whatever we think this new normalcy will be, we have to begin to ask questions. Hey, listen, the pandemic has gone or whatever, and this is what we're living like. How do you feel about re-interacting each other? Do you want me to keep those 6 feet, 3 feet, 5 feet? What is my gray area where I do not cross? I mean, it's nothing wrong with having dialogue. Because believe it or not, there are certain people, no matter how much touch and feely you are, there are some people that you still don't want in your space. Or if they do, it's for a period of time. You don't want them there every day because they start to smother you. I'm not saying, that's a good thing or bad. It depends on you. But I think this is a good opportunity where we reintroduce ourselves with the boundaries that we feel that we need. Because we still have to look at protecting ourselves. It may not be this protection, but the mask that you have put on, maybe you have to see if you're willing to take that off, or at least take time to move it off so that you can get to know people in the way that you want to be known as well. And maybe bring some different perspectives out where you two can work together or coexist in the same space with understanding each other's boundaries and each other's restrictions. What better way now to have these conversations moving forward with finding out how do people want to interact with each other on a regular basis? Are there certain things that you didn't know that you present to others that kind of been a nuisance to them or something that they gravitate to as a strength? It'd be a good time to have some talk, especially when you all work in cubicles or in a close environment, or maybe just interact it's in the job. It might be good for you to sit there and see what type of boundaries are now in existence, or do we go back to what we had before? Doesn't help to ask. That way you stay safe. I don't know about you. I'm a touchy-feeling person. I like to get up in people's space, but I understand that people do have boundaries. Even before the pandemic, I knew that I set my own personal limitations because I don't want people to think one way or the other, and I don't want them to feel like I'm standoffish. At the same time, I don't want them to feel like they can just bounce in on me and just throw anything at me at different times. Because like anybody, some days you're just not up to it. Some days you're not at your best, but you try to work through it. And some people are morning people, some people are afternoon. So as you learned them in the past, take those same things in consideration moving forward. Hey, this is me with you, JT. I just wanted to feed a thought to you. Just think about it. How do you reintroduce yourself or establish yourself in this new form of normalcy? That's the question that I want you to think about. The pandemic is slowly leaving us. Then you got to go back to work and face those same people that are there. Maybe you need to operate in a way that everybody feels safe and feel comfortable, even after the pandemic. Maybe this will be an opportunity to do some things over and maybe establish some new rules to govern yourself by and others as well. Think about it. Hey, it's JT again. Have a great one, man.